in the eastern city of Crimson Sun City, Wei Empire, Lu Prefecture. Jiang Jewel, who has been in this world for over 5 years, has already become accustomed to the presence of Yaoguai, demons, and immortals. As a traveler who crossed over to this world, Jiang Jewel was originally quite surprised by the situation. He awakened the Divine Destiny System. The Divine Destiny System can allow Jiang Jewel to deduce a person's past and future. It just has limitations. Calculation requires the consumption of points. The higher the cultivation level or talent of the person being calculated, the more points will be consumed. Points can be obtained by sacrificing to the system. As long as there are treasures with spiritual chi, such as spiritual treasures, Dan pills, heavenly and earthly treasures, they can be exchanged for points with the system. However, Jiang Jewel can only be used by the system to calculate divine destiny for others, and cannot be used to calculate divine destiny for oneself. Jiang Jewel also found that there seems to be a problem with this system, which is that the divine destiny system will force oneself and the person being calculated to tell the truth. If one conceals the truth, they will be rewarded with 3 calamities: heavenly retribution, either being saved by a deity or facing a life-threatening situation. Jiang Jewel knows that they cannot bear it. Instead, if they disclose the heavenly secrets, he actually receives a reward of earning merit and can obtain additional special rewards from the life of the person being deduced. The Divine Destiny System requires Jiang Jewel to deduce the divine destiny of at least 3 people every day. And he cannot actively seek out others for fortune-telling. He can only wait for others to come to him. He must accept the request for divine destiny deduction up to 3 times a day. Originally, Jiang Jewel was still worried about the number of fortune-telling sessions for today. But now Jiang Jewel is looking at the person in front of him. He only wants to slip away quickly in his heart, because the person standing in front of him at this moment, it turned out to be Tushanlan, the Supreme Lord of the 10,000 Yaoguai's Kingdom Heavenly Demons. Jiang Jewel swallowed hard with a bitter taste in her heart. He turned around and tried to slip away. Just as he turned around, he saw 2 maids of Tushanlan. The 2 of them stood behind him without him knowing when. Jiang Jewel could only turn around to look at Tushanlan. He squeezed out an unsightly smile and said, "As a person, always leave some room for others, so you can meet again on good terms." Tushanlan just said lightly, "But I am a demon." Upon hearing these insightful words, Jiang Jewel was momentarily at a loss for how to respond. When Jiang Jewel wanted to continue struggling, Tushanlan said slowly, "Tell my fortune or die." Jiang Jewel immediately took out paper and pen, offering them respectfully with both hands. He said, "Please give me your writing." Tushanlan raised his right hand. She used her slender fingers, as delicate as a spring onion. She sketched a vibrant kill on the paper. Jiang Jewel wisely pretended not to see it and began deducing divine destiny directly. But when Jiang Jewel saw the prompt on the divine destiny system, he was dumbfounded. Because it read, "Are you deducing the divine destiny for Tushanlan? This divination session will require 1 billion divine destiny points." It's the first time Jiang Jewel has seen a divine destiny divination for a person. It actually requires so many points to use. He has been in this world for over 5 years, but the points he has accumulated are not even close to a fraction of what is needed. Although Jiang Jewel can understand why it requires so many points, at this moment, he is still stunned in place. Upon seeing Jiang Jewel taking his own words, Tushanlan stood there dumbfounded. This deduction cost 1 million divine destiny points. Upon seeing this prompt, Jiang Jewel offered Tushanlan his divination gold, a lower-grade Taoist artifact, or 5 million spiritual stones. Tushanlan looked at Jiang Jewel with some surprise, but didn't say much. She took a small gourd from her waist, pointed a finger, and placed it in front of Jiang Jewel. After Jiang Jewel inspected it, he began divining the divine destiny. 1,001 years later, Tushan is nursing her baby in Red Mist Valley. Just the first piece of divine destiny information caused Jiang Jewel to be instantly stunned. Nursing a baby? The Lord of Heavenly Demons, the nightmare of the human race in the supreme 10,000 Yaoguai's kingdom, is actually happily nursing a baby 1,000 years later? Who has such ability? Before Jiang Jewel could recover from the first piece of divine destiny information, the second piece of divine destiny information appeared in his mind. In the year 1001, Tushan is worried about her eldest son's education issues. This little troublemaker refuses to learn her martial arts and instead wants to study his useless father's divination methods. This makes her very angry. In the year 1002, Tushan started teaching her second daughter and felt extremely pleased with their talents in cultivation. 1,003 years later, when Tushan's fourth son participated in the ceremony of growth celebrating, he grabbed the 2 flags that his father had written. Only speak the profound truth, not a single word of empty nonsense. She was very angry as she had prepared various divine weapons and spiritual treasures such as axes, coins, hooks, forks, swords, and halberds. 1,004 years later, Tushan, pregnant with her 5th child, showed no signs of giving birth this year, which made her suddenly begin to worry. 1,005 years later. The following several divine destiny messages are parenting insights from Tushan. Only the last divine destiny message has changed. 1,010 years later. Jiang Jewel, the husband of Tushan, returned to Red Mist Valley from Yellow Springs Bureau. She was very happy about this, but when they were intimate, her keen sense of smell detected the scent of another woman on Jiang Jewel's body. When Jiang Jewel saw these divine destiny messages, his expression changed from stunned to puzzled, and then to horrified. In the end, all his eloquence collapsed into a single syllable. Damn! Jiang Jewel still wants to see his future self. Will he be killed by this demoness? If not, can he pay some price to change his fate? But when he saw the merit required, he couldn't help but break out in a cold sweat and immediately dismiss the idea, because the system indicated that Tushan currently has a negative 11,250,000 merit. If he were to alter her fate, he would also need to consume 1 million Jiang Jewels. Inwardly, he couldn't help but wonder what outrageous things this demoness had done to accumulate over negative 10 million merit. Why hasn't she been struck down by heavenly retribution? The merit he has accumulated over the years is not even close to enough to alter her fate. Tushan softly asked, "Young man, have you figured something out?" Upon hearing Tushan's pleasant voice, Jiang Jewel knew that if he told the truth, Tushan would order his subordinates to kill him in the next moment. And at that moment, the system's prompt seemed to be as urgent as a life-saving talisman, urging him to make a choice. You glimpse divine destiny. You can choose to conceal the heavenly secret. Reward, merit minus 1 million. The ninefold heavenly tribulation befalls and leads to death. Or you can choose to reveal the heavenly secret. Punishment, merit plus 1 million and select one of the following punishments. 1. Parenting experience of Tushan. 2. Miscellaneous book. 10,000 ways to train a husband. 3. Half piece of jade pendant. He saw this prompt. Jiang Jewel couldn't help but hesitate. In the past, when he deduced divine destiny for others, even if choosing to hide the heavenly secrets, the punishment received was 3 calamities, heavenly retribution. But the system didn't explicitly say that death was the only option. However, this time, the system clearly told him that if he hid the heavenly secrets, he wouldn't make it through and would surely die. Jiang Jewel then looked at those 3 rewards and wondered what they were. After much hesitation, Jiang Jewel had no choice but to choose the third option and take a gamble. System prompt. The mortal-grade jade pendant without any fluctuation of spiritual power only has a damaged half-piece left, tainted with Tushan's breath, seemingly concealing a secret related to Tushan. The holder of this half-piece of jade pendant can unconditionally make Tushan do one thing. After Jiang Jewel finished reading it, his face lit up, whispering to himself that there was hope. At this point, Tushanlan saw that Jiang Jewel had been silent for a long time and asked again slightly impatiently. "Young man, why are you silent? Could it be that you are trying to deceive me?" Jiang Jewel calmed down their inner turmoil. He smiled and gestured with clasped hands, saying, "Congratulations, Demon Lord. Congratulations, Demon Lord Tushanlan." Tushanlan frowned and asked, "What's the occasion for this congratulations?" Jiang Jewel continued, "Demon Lord, 1,000 years later, a harmonious marriage will bear 2 sons and 2 daughters, with 1 more on the way." Upon hearing this, Tushanlan exuded overwhelming demonic qi, his eyes revealing a murderous intent. Jiang Jewel, however, seemed oblivious and continued calmly. "The eldest son is remarkably intelligent, studying the arts of the 8 trigrams and the Book of Changes, mastering yin-yang and the 5 elements. He holds the fate of ancient and modern affairs in his hands. The second and third daughters possess astonishing talents, understanding the divine technique of battle and possessing the potential to dominate the world. The fourth son is young and has yet to cultivate, but exhibits the appearance of an innate immaculate sacred body, born with dual pupils, protected by the 5 immortal guardians and the 5 ghosts clearing the way. All immortals inherit the sacred fragrance of devotion. The 5th child is still in the womb, yet contains innate purple energy. The royal long vein often glances back, as if guarding its legacy. He is a heaven-ordained appearance befitting the human emperor." Jiang Jewel speaks with each sentence. The more Tushanlan speaks, the heavier the lingering evil aura becomes. She looked at Jiang Jewel as if looking at a dead person, slowly asking, "Do you know the cost of speaking nonsense?" Jiang Jewel smiled slightly, raised a finger to the sky, and said, "If I speak nonsense, may the heavens condemn me." Just as the words fell, a loud thunder roared in the sky, and a huge bolt of lightning slashed through the sky. Tushanlan looked at Jiang Jewel expressionlessly and said, "Since that's the case, young man, why don't you tell me what kind of man you are that can capture my heart?" Jiang Jewel flicked his sleeve, causing it to fall. Pointing to himself with his right hand, he said, "I am just a humble person, it is I." Tushanlan's pupils shrank slightly, and the sword slave behind her, upon hearing Jiang Jewel's words, drew her sword and stepped forward, intending to behead Jiang Jewel right then and there. Tushanlan slowly raised her right hand. She coldly said, "Young man, I'm afraid your calculation is off." Jiang Jewel did not doubt Tushanlan's determination to kill him. He quickly took out the jade pendant from his bosom and said, "Whether the calculation is accurate or not, I ask the Lord of Heavenly Demons to first look at this item before making a judgment." When Tushanlan saw the half-piece of jade pendant presented by Jiang Jewel, the overwhelming murderous intent on his body momentarily paused. He asked in confusion, "This jade, why is it on you?" Jiang Jewel held the jade pendant and said, "I have heard that the one who possesses the jade can make the Lord of Heavenly Demons agree to one thing unconditionally. Is this true?" Tushanlan's face darkened slightly as he remained silent. Jiang Jewel continued, "Can it be that the Lord of Heavenly Demons will agree to marry me?" Tushanlan responded lightly, "Yes." Her response. It surprised Jiang Jewel that even marriage is acceptable. Before Jiang Jewel could react, Tushanlan instantly appeared in front of Jiang Jewel, lightly lifted Jiang Jewel's chin, carefully examined it, nodded and said, "On closer inspection, the young man is quite handsome, but this divination may not be accurate." Then Tushanlan made a move, and the half-piece of jade pendant in Jiang Jewel's hand fell into her hand. Jiang Jewel felt teased and asked, "Why do you say that?" Tushanlan whispered in Jiang Jewel's ear, "Because I will take you back to the 10,000 Yaoguai's kingdom to get married. However, I only promise to marry you. On the wedding night, you shall go to your death. Your life will only last until the end of this year. Why talk about matters beyond 1,000 years? Do you think this divination is accurate?" Countless storm of curses are galloping wildly through Jiang Jewel's mind. He immediately said, "I just asked a question holding the jade pendant, and did not intend to make this wish. I asked the Demon Lord to return the jade pendant to me, so I can rethink. Tushanlan looked at Jiang Jewel with a sardonic smile and said, what do you think? Then Tushanlan instructed the sword slave behind him to take him back to the 10,000 Yaoguai's kingdom. Jiang Jewel watched as the two sword slaves approached him. He gritted his teeth and said, You demoness, whoever marries you is doomed. If I achieve merit in the future, I will change this calamity in my fate. As he spoke, he took out a talisman paper from his pocket and pinched it between his fingers. Jiang Jewel shouted, Goodbye, and then disappeared in an instant in front of everyone. After seeing Jiang Jewel disappear, Tushanlan showed a look of astonishment and muttered to himself, That talisman of his, is that the trick of Old Long? This fortune teller can even have the Old Long of Sun Moon Lake draw a life-protecting talisman for him. Who exactly is he? The sword slave kneeling beside him asked, Does the Demon Lord need me to capture the person and bring him back? Tushanlan nodded slightly and said, Let him live, bring him back to the 10,000 Yaoguai's kingdom. She then walked towards Sun Moon Lake, Wei Empire's southern heavenly mountain range. There is a big river named Jade Splendor River, a stream branching off from Jade Splendor River in the canyon. A quiet stream surface heard a plop sound. Jiang Jewel climbed up from the creek in a sorry state, muttering with helplessness, What bad luck! Afterwards, he thought about the yellow talisman he had just used up, and tears streamed down his face, feeling extremely bitter. The life-protecting talisman was tricked from Old Long after more than half a month of staying at Sun Moon Lake. He had not expected to use it today. Upon thinking about the Tushanlan Jiang Jewel, he said in a dark and hoarse voice, Tushanlan, you wait. After I have cultivated for 1,000 or 10,000 years and become invincible, I will never let you go. Then he thought about 1,000 years later. Tushanlan will marry herself and give birth to 5 children. This revenge method is not bad. But when he thought of the demoness killing people without blinking an eye, Jiang Jewel couldn't help but shudder. He thought to himself, Forget it, this is really unaffordable. It's better to work hard to accumulate merit and change this destiny. Later, Jiang Jewel got up and looked around, feeling puzzled about where he was. He walked towards the depths of the forest. Half a month later, in the mountains and forests of the southern heavenly mountain range, a large and muscular tiger is sprinting through the mountains and forests. Jiang Jewel is riding on the broad back of this tiger spirit. He holds a parchment scroll in his hand and murmurs, Finally about to leave the southern heavenly mountain range. He went through this half-month. He had long known where he was, but he didn't expect that Old Long's boundless miles divine movement talisman would teleport him to this deserted area near the Wei Empire. But the Wei Empire is very close to the 10,000 Yaoguai's kingdom, so Jiang Jewel is afraid to go back. He can only detour to the Qin Empire now. In the past half-month, Jiang Jewel has been deducing the divine destiny of the spirit beasts in the mountains and forests during this past half-month. It's fortunate that he has established spiritual intelligence here, and there are quite a few spirit beasts with profound cultivation. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to complete his daily goals of 3 tasks. And he also obtained such a large basket of treasures. Jiang Jewel was able to thrive in the southern heavenly mountain range because he predicted that a legitimate god would emerge here in the future. Wait until that time. The spirit beasts in front of us are all the followers of that true god, ultimately enjoying a share of the incense. It's just a pity that Jiang Jewel did not figure out who the true god from the southern heavenly mountain range is. Jiang Jewel plans to come back and take another look in the future. A moment later, Tiger's spirit carried Jiang Jewel to the front of Jade Splendor River. The river was vast, with a swift and turbulent current. Jiang Jewel looked at Tiger's spirit and said, The river water is treacherous. Even with a boat, it might be difficult to cross. Tiger brother, do you really have a way to help me cross the river? Tiger's spirit let out a low growl as if responding to Jiang Jewel. Then it took a step and came to the riverside. It let out a deafening roar, only to see the river churning up waves. Under the great river, a huge dark figure emerged from the water. Jiang Jewel looked at the monstrous creature in the river, instinctively took a few steps back. He exclaimed, "Oh my gosh!" After a moment, the enormous creature surfaced. The surging river water hit the embankment, creating splashes of waves. It was a giant turtle-like creature that was as big as a huge boat. The giant turtle spoke in a human language from its mouth, asking, "Who dares disturb my peaceful cultivation?" Evidently, this giant turtle had refined its throat bone and was a powerful demon with deep cultivation. The giant turtle turned its head downward towards the shore and quickly set its eyes on the Jiang Jewel beside the tiger spirit. The giant turtle slowly spoke. "I have heard that in recent days, a divination master has arrived in the mountains for this southern heavenly mountain range. Many wild spirit beasts have gained enlightenment, but who is this master? May I ask for the name of this master?" Jiang Jewel quickly returned the gesture and said, "My last name is Jiang." The giant turtle, quite knowledgeable about human etiquette, politely asked, "May I ask what brings the master to me?" The tiger spirit next to Jiang Jewel let out a low growl. The giant turtle nodded slightly and said, "So it turns out the master needs to cross the river. This is a small matter. If the master doesn't mind, I would be willing to carry you across." Jiang Jewel replied, "How could I trouble you?" The giant turtle chuckled softly and said, "Please don't worry. This is the southern heavenly mountain range. It's rare to encounter a master like you. I would like to form a good connection with you and get to know you." Upon hearing the giant turtle's sincere words, Jiang Jewel no longer declined and said, "In that case, I will not be polite." The Jade Splendor River flows swiftly, with steep cliffs on both sides. Occasionally, you can see birds gliding in formation through the sky. Jiang Jewel sits cross-legged on the back of a giant tortoise. He looks at both sides of the river, with the river breeze caressing his hair, feeling content. At this moment, the giant tortoise inquires, "Sir, may I know where you are heading?" Jiang Jewel responds, "To the Qin Empire." Upon hearing Jiang Jewel's destination, the giant tortoise's tone becomes a bit strange as he asks, "Sir, are you heading to the Qin Empire for something urgent?" Jiang Jewel replies, "Nothing urgent. I am just traveling around, going wherever my journey takes me." The giant tortoise continues, "In that case, let me offer you a word of advice, sir. It might be best not to go to the Qin Empire in these days." Jiang Jewel was slightly startled and asked. The old man asked, "Why do you say such things?" The giant tortoise replied, "Since you understand the ways of divination, why not look towards the great Qin to sense its energy?" Jiang Jewel suddenly felt a bit embarrassed. He relies entirely on the deduction of the system for divination. How could he understand physiognomy, qi observation, 6 run and 6 jiao, and so on? But Jiang Jewel, who is quick-witted, immediately said, "It's better for me to observe less about this dynasty's fate." The giant tortoise does not doubt that there are others, because the art of divination is a way of self-damage. Peeking into the secrets of heaven has many taboos. So it spoke up, saying, "What the gentleman said is right. I have spoken too much." Afterwards, the giant tortoise explained to Jiang Jewel, "In the past few years, the Qin Empire has been doing fine. Although the monarch of the Qin Empire is not a brilliant and wise ruler, he is a moderate king who maintains stability. Moreover, establishing relations with the Long King of Rivers and Seas has brought smooth sailing in recent years, and the people's lives have been relatively good." Just 7 years ago, the monarch of the Qin Empire was bewitched by an enchantress. In order to bring the enchantress into the palace, he deposed the originally virtuous empress. Over the years, he has been indulging in pleasures, neglecting state affairs, levying heavy taxes, and excessively constructing buildings. It is heard that within the imperial palace, a place called the Wine Pool and Meat Forest has been built, resembling a paradise on earth. The giant tortoise sighed a few times before continuing. "In conclusion, the Qin Empire is currently in turmoil and not very peaceful. If it is not urgent, it is better for you not to go there. Jiang Jewel is not a stubborn person and replied, "Thank you for the advice, I will remember it." However, Jiang Jewel still needs to cross this Jade Splendor River. After all, going back means bordering the Wei Empire and 10,000 Yaoguai's kingdom, and Jiang Jewel dares not return now. After a few words of advice, the giant tortoise stopped mentioning the matter and began chatting casually with Jiang Jewel, asking some trivial questions. However, Jiang Jewel always felt that the giant tortoise seemed to want to ask something but was hesitant to speak up. Half an hour later, the giant tortoise carried Jiang Jewel to the center of the river. Suddenly, Jiang Jewel noticed movement beneath the water surface. Shadows emerged one by one from the water surface. Those turned out to be some large-sized fish, shrimp, and crabs. Obviously, these are definitely not ordinary river creatures, but rather some experienced Yaoguai. The giant turtle smiled and explained, "Sir, please don't be offended. These are all my apprentices. We have heard of Sir's exploits in the southern heavenly mountain range, summoning the wild spirit beasts. We just wanted to seek an opportunity. If Sir is not interested, I will send them away." Jiang Jewel realized that he had not completed his 3 tasks for the day. He said, "It's okay, meaning is fate. It's just that fate doesn't always work out as we wish." The giant turtle chuckled, its 4 legs lightly swaying in the water. Dispelling the water Yaoguai's doubts, the Jiang Jewel spoke up, saying, "Since you have said so, sir, I am shameless to ask you to divine a hexagram for me." The Jiang Jewel thought for quite a while, circling around in its mind. The giant turtle finally brought up the question it wanted to ask, and the Jiang Jewel smiled slightly, not surprised in its heart. The giant turtle saw Jiang Jewel's expression. It knew that its little scheme had been seen through and reluctantly said, "Sir, please don't be offended. I am aware that my actions were inappropriate. It's just that a question has troubled me for most of my life. It's rare to encounter such a remarkable person as yourself. If I miss this opportunity, I may regret it for the rest of my life. But please rest assured, I have roamed the Jade Splendor River for over 1,200 years and have some treasures to offer. Consider them as your divination fees, sir." Jiang Jewel asked, "May I inquire about the question that has been troubling you, sir?" The giant tortoise sighed, saying, "Since I gained wisdom. For 1,200 years of cultivation, a lifetime of doing good and accumulating virtues, without any wrongdoing, there are many ancestral halls on both banks of the Jade Splendor River that were built by villagers under my care. It can be considered a form of reverent worship. After 1,000 years of accomplishment, if the cultivation level does not progress further and the vitality begins to decline, yet the long transformation tribulation has not arrived, all the old man seeks is the matter of long transformation. May I ask, sir, can I undergo long transformation?" Jiang Jewel was stunned after listening to the words of the giant tortoise. He realized something was amiss. According to logic, if this giant tortoise was approaching the realm of long transformation, its body should display some features of transformation. However, apart from its massive size, the tortoise showed no signs of long transformation at all. It was clear that it had not even touched the edge of long transformation. Jiang Jewel was faintly filled with a sense of unease. Years of experience told Jiang Jewel that this divination of divine destiny might not end well. Dealing with a common little Yaoguai would be fine, but this giant tortoise, with 1,000 years of cultivation, was far beyond what Jiang Jewel could handle. Moreover, Jiang Jewel was currently on the tortoise's back. Jiang Jewel's face turned bitter, feeling inclined to refuse, but the system offered no room for rejection. Then Jiang Jewel addressed the tortoise, saying, "Sir, I must clarify beforehand that I charge a hefty fee in divination coins." Jiang Jewel attempted to scare the tortoise off with a large sum of divination coins, but to Jiang Jewel's surprise, the tortoise responded joyfully, "Sir, please feel free to speak." Jiang Jewel was suddenly speechless. He couldn't help but think to himself, "It's really strange. Are all the people who come to me for fortune-telling this wealthy?" He deduced that divine destiny requires a medium. Jiang Jewel usually asks the other party to write a word, but this giant turtle has not yet transformed, so it cannot write. In the end, Jiang Jewel started deducing with the turtle shell that fell off. Is it deducing the divine destiny of Jade Splendor River Blackback General? This deduction requires consuming 30,000 points of divine destiny. Jiang Jewel offered 300,000 spiritual stones to the giant turtle in exchange for 60,000 divine destiny points. However, Jiang Jewel encountered a hexagram he did not want to calculate, where the spiritual stones would always be doubled. The giant turtle was a bit stunned upon hearing this number. This hexagram gold truly is expensive. Although it has been cultivating in the Jade Splendor River for these years and has accumulated some treasures, it really cannot come up with so many spiritual stones. The giant turtle then made up its mind. It opened its mouth and spat out a green jade lotus seed. The giant turtle slowly said, "This green jade lotus seed. It is the fruit of a 1,000-year-old sacred medicine plant. Can it be used to cast the gold I Ching for Mr. Jiang Jewel? Let me check the system." Mysterious object. Green jade lotus seed. Can be exchanged for 80,000 divine destiny points. He nodded and said, "That's enough." At this point, Jiang Jewel had no excuse to refuse, so he began deducing the divine destiny. At the age of 0, a bird tortoise was born in the southern heavenly mountain range, Jade Splendor River. At the age of 60, the turtle mistakenly ingested a green jade lotus seed. Accidentally activated spiritual intelligence, self-titled as Blackback General. At 200 years old, Blackback General is stirring up trouble at Jade Splendor River. Devouring the essence and blood of living humans, cultivation progresses rapidly by leaps and bounds. At 500 years old, the Blackback General received guidance from a master. He seeks to cultivate the power of incense, purge the Yaoguai Qi, and start seizing ordinary people in the Qin and Wei empires, capturing and breeding the human race, and constructing heretical shrines. At 800 years old, the Celestial Clarity River's little dragon king passed by the Jade Splendor River. He discovered the misdeeds of Blackback General, so he angrily took action. Blackback General managed to escape, but was injured at the foundational level, making it difficult for his cultivation level to progress further. At the age of 1201, Blackback General desperately sought the opportunity for long transformation, but to no avail. Presumptuously, he seeks investiture from the human sovereign, and colludes with the Qin Empire's enchantress consort to abduct refugees and refine elixirs from human blood. 1,204 years old. Blackback General heard that a human expert had arrived at the southern heavenly mountain range seeking guidance, but was told that death was imminent. Furious, Blackback General intended to throw the expert into the Jade Splendor River to suppress for 1,000 years. However, the expert broke the curse of heavenly retribution and perished. Jiang Jewel was taken aback. No wonder this giant turtle, with a cultivation level of 1,200 years, has not undergone the long transformation yet. It's because it dares not. It has always concealed its fate with the incense from the Yin Temple to avoid heavenly calamities and escape its karmic debts. How could it survive the long transformation tribulation? The system continues to prompt at this time. You peaked a divine destiny. You can choose to conceal the heavenly secret. Reward, merit minus 30,000, 9 sins heavenly retribution. You peaked a divine destiny. You can choose to divulge divine destiny. Reward, merit plus 30,000 and choose one of the following punishments. 1. Blackback General gains insight into the divine path of faith and incense. 2. Dan Alchemy gains insight into the method of blood elixir ritual refining. 3. Divine Technique, the art of water manipulation. Jiang Jewel is looking at these 3 rewards. After a brief consideration, he chose the third option. At this moment, the urgent voice of Blackback General sounded in Jiang Jewel's ear. "Sir, may I have the opportunity to use the long transformation?" Jiang Jewel took a deep breath and said calmly, "Perhaps you have underestimated my abilities. You, a killer, come to me for divination? Blackback General, you really have quite the nerve. The giant turtle trembled in shock that Jiang Jewel knew his real name. Over the years, Blackback General had been keeping a low profile to avoid the little long king from the celestial clarity river. Why would this person know his true name? Could it be that his divination skills had reached an unparalleled level, where he could discern such information? Did he figure it out through divination? Later, Blackback General tried to stay calm and said in a deep voice, "Sir, I only ask about my own long transformation opportunity. As for other matters, I have never asked you to divine. Have you taken the divination fee, sir?" Upon hearing this, Jiang Jewel burst into laughter, and after a moment he spoke. "Opportunity for long transformation? Since you seek the opportunity for long transformation, then I shall provide you with this opportunity long transformation tribulation. Will you dare to undergo it or not?" The Blackback General felt a sense of unease in his heart and asked, "What do you mean by these words, sir?" Jiang Jewel replied lightly, "I am willing to sacrifice my own merit. I will write a letter, the petition to heaven, for you. I present a memorial to the heavens, granting you an opportunity for a dragon transformation." Jiang Jewel's words not only did not make Blackback General happy, but instead revealed a look of horror. He angrily shouted, "I kindly gave you a ride across the river, yet you repay kindness with enmity? Are you humans and cultivators truly such treacherous individuals?" Jiang Jewel turned a deaf ear and held his hands in a gesture of courtesy. He bowed towards the sky and paid his respects. Disciple Jiang Jewel, respectfully requesting Celestial Venerable of Profound Thunder Arts to listen to the story of the Blackback General, who has cultivated diligently for over 1,200 years in the Jade Splendor River, accumulating merits through acts of goodness and rigorous practice. The Celestial Venerable mentioned in Jiang Jewel's petition is the legendary deity who wields the thunder tribulation penalties in the heavens. As Jiang Jewel spoke each word, the originally clear sky began to gradually change, dark clouds looming in the sky. The rumbling sound is incessant. Blackback General feels an intense sense of crisis in his heart, his eyes becoming fearful. He can't believe this person would actually use the art of summoning gods, and even summon the Celestial Venerable of Profound Thunder Arts. Blackback General angrily said, "Impudent child! The old man has a kind heart towards you. How dare you act like this?" Blackback General kept roaring, turned his head, opened his mouth wide, and tried to swallow the Jiang Jewel in one gulp. The Jiang Jewel stood proudly on the back of the turtle. He showed no fear at all, shouting loudly, "Celestial Venerable above, merit within me. How dare you, a petty person, try to harm me?" The Blackback General was so enraged that its teeth were almost crushed, but it dared not continue to devour the Jiang Jewel, because this long transformation tribulation was brought by the Jiang Jewel. If the Blackback General devoured the Jiang Jewel at this moment, then the Blackback General would undoubtedly die. At this moment, the petition to heaven by Jiang Jewel is nearing its end. For the virtuous, heaven's reward awaits. For the wicked, heavenly retribution awaits. Please consider carefully. After Jiang Jewel pointed at the sky and shouted, dark clouds immediately thundered, and streaks of purple lightning snaked across the sky. The long transformation tribulation has arrived. Later, Jiang Jewel looked towards Blackback General and laughed heartily. "Blackback General, weren't you seeking advice from me? I've always been accurate in divination, speaking nothing but the truth. Today, here in this place, you will meet your end under the Celestial Tao's long transformation tribulation. Retribution will be fulfilled without fail." With a loud laugh, Jiang Jewel leaped into the river. Jiang Jewel, who has mastered the art of water manipulation, can move freely underwater. However, due to not yet reaching the realm of golden body without leaks in their cultivation level, they need to come up for air every once in a while. But he is still able to cope with the current situation. Jiang Jewel quietly surfaced from the water. He looked from afar at Blackback General crossing the long transformation tribulation, with a faint incense chi lingering around Blackback General. The scene of countless people worshipping could be vaguely seen within this incense chi. Faint voices seemed to come from afar. With boundless merit, grand immortal of jade splendor Blackback, rescuing those in need. The transcendent Darkback Bodhisattva of the golden body. When the thunder descended and struck Blackback General. The thunder, however, was completely neutralized and dissolved by this incense chi. General Blackback felt extremely heartbroken. These incenses were accumulated over hundreds of years. Never did it imagine that so much would be consumed today. However, if it can successfully pass through the long transformation tribulation, then everything will be worth it. Blackback thought of the Jiang Jewel and sternly declared in his heart, "For this opportunity, I, as an old man, will take it on." General Blackback solemnly looked at the thunderclouds in the sky. It is ready to face this wave of heavenly tribulation. But just at this moment, it suddenly realized that Jiang Jewel was standing on the river not far away looking in this direction. Blackback General felt a sense of unease rising in his heart. Sure enough, I saw Jiang Jewel smile slightly at it, then raised his right hand, index finger and middle finger together, with a faint gold light at the fingertips, pointing at it from afar, saying, "The Lu Temple incense, the path of Yaoguai and evil, we will not tolerate it. Disperse. Disperse." This golden light is condensed by Jiang Jewel's own merit, specializing in breaking evil. When the golden light falls upon the Lu Temple incense surrounding Blackback General, it is like a flame falling into the snow. Instantly the ice and snow melt. Blackback General watches helplessly as the incense accumulated over thousands of years is shattered by a single move. Under the attack of urgent fire, it spits out a mouthful of blood and roars sharply, "The Jiang boy, I have an eternal feud with you." Jiang Jewel pointed to the sky and sneered, "Without the protection of your temples and incense, let's see how you overcome this calamity." The Blackback General, without the protection of the temples and incense, felt the faint blood fiend chi surrounding him instantly sensed by the heavenly calamity. The calamitous cloud swelled multiple times in an instant. Despair flashed in the Blackback General's eyes, as he knew he couldn't pass through this heavenly retribution. The Blackback General no longer wasted effort trying to resist the heavenly thunder. It spat out a mouthful of blood and shouted in a stern voice, "The Jiang boy, even if I die, I will not let you off easy." The blood contained all the Yaoguai power of Blackback General, transformed into a blood sword shooting towards Jiang Jewel. When Jiang Jewel saw the blood sword approaching, his expression stiffened and then turned pale in an instant. Jiang Jewel cursed, "Damn!" He then used the divine technique of water manipulation to escape into the Jade Splendor River. The Blackback General laughed heartily as he watched Jiang Jewel flee in a sorry state. "The blood sword is locked onto your aura. Let's see where you can escape to, Jiang surname. You'll bear the consequences, even if I die." At this moment, a crimson thunderbolt slowly descended upon the head of the Blackback General. The blood sword followed Jiang Jewel into the depths of the river. This moment caused the Jade Splendor River to create towering waves. A few days later, at the border of the Qin Empire, a painted pleasure boat was floating on the Jade Splendor River. On the deck of the boat stood a distinguished young master in a blue robe with white clothes, distinguished brows, and phoenix-like eyes. With his outstanding appearance, the distinguished young master looked worried as he gazed at the Jade Splendor River. In his heart, he recalled the flood that occurred in the river a few days ago. The area affected by the flood was near the capital of the Qin Empire, Xianxia, where a large amount of fertile land was submerged. He feared that in a few days, there would be an influx of refugees due to the flooding. What is even more worrisome is how much grain is left in the national treasury. If the grain reserves are not enough to support the current situation, there may be famine. At that time, within the Qin Empire, it will surely be a living hell. He also thought about since the enchantress entered the palace. When the Qin Empire fell, the place indeed became chaotic with evil spirits. Just as the esteemed young master was thinking about these matters, someone at the stern of the ship shouted, "Young master, we have fished a person onto our boat. He seems to still be alive, and he looks a bit strange. He was clearly fished out of the river, but his body is completely dry. Even his clothes are still dry. This person is none other than Jiang Jewel. Jiang Jewel slowly regained consciousness from the coma, feeling a splitting headache that made him extremely uncomfortable. He furrowed his brows, holding his head with force, not knowing where he was at the moment. He took a while to adjust before he could clearly see the objects in the room. Jiang Jewel felt the room was swaying continuously, and he could vaguely hear the sound of flowing water. He wondered if he was on a boat. Who pulled him out of the Jade Splendor River? The next moment, his face froze as he took out a broken jade pendant from his embrace. This was a life-saving spiritual treasure that had lost its effectiveness now. Jiang Jewel looked at the broken jade pendant with eyes filled with sadness. He then sighed, and could only console himself in his heart. Peace in every little piece. Peace in every little piece. Then he thought of that Jade Splendor River old turtle, which could also be considered a 1,000-year-old Yaoguai at the cultivation level. The sacrificing blow before death only shattered one of its life-saving items, and he is still in one piece. Thinking this way, Jiang Jewel felt no loss. However, Jiang Jewel now has a certain uncomfortable feeling, a sense of suppressed crisis lingering in his mind. Subsequently, Jiang Jewel sits cross-legged and meditates, introspecting himself, but he does not find any injuries on his body. Jiang Jewel slowly opens his eyes. His brows furrowed, there seems to be a foreboding sense of imminent disaster. Suddenly Jiang Jewel's face changed abruptly and he said, "Speaking of which, what day is it today?" At the same time, the system's prompt tone sounded in Jiang Jewel's mind. Detected that the host has not deduced the divine destiny little 3 calamities for 3 days. The heavenly tribulation is about to descend. He is just a small cultivator at the 8th layer of foundation establishment. Even though he has some means, how can he survive the thunder tribulation? Jiang Jewel forced himself to calm down. He knew that this day would come sooner or later, so he had long researched many methods to avoid the heavenly tribulation. As a great merit holder, blessings would come from the heavens. Even if he faced the tribulation, it would be greatly weakened. Next is to cultivate the path of incense and offerings. Just like the old tortoise from Jade Splendor River, who relies on incense chi to avoid heavenly tribulations, but it indulges in improper incense offerings which belong to Yaoguai and the evil path, it has many drawbacks. However, if it is an orthodox cultivation of the path of incense and offerings, it requires sealing the position of the deity. Once the deity is established, it adds an extra layer of constraints. It is not such a simple matter. Over the years, Jiang Jewel has accumulated a considerable amount of merit by deducing divine destinies for others. However, with his own cultivation level being too low, it would be difficult to overcome the heavenly tribulations even if he puts in more effort. When Jiang Jewel opens the system panel to check his remaining merit, he can't help but let out a soft exclamation. The system indicates that Jiang Jewel currently has a remaining merit of 100,054. Jiang Jewel remembers that his own merit was over 90,000 before. Later, at the request of the Jade Splendor River Old Turtle, he activated the Celestial Venerable of Profound Thunder Arts. Jiang Jewel thought he could burn incense when he had half of his merit left, but now, why has it increased? Afterwards, Jiang Jewel looked through the system logs and only then found out why the merit increased. The host punishes evil and promotes goodness. Eradicate evil. Yaoguai Jade Splendor River Blackback General Merit plus 50,000 merit has reached 100,000. Blessings from Heaven. Divine Technique Self-Performance. Congratulations to the host for opening the divine eye to comprehend divine technique. Art of Chi Observation. Jiang Jewel's face looked a bit strange. The art of Chi Observation allows him, the fortune teller, to become more competent. Jiang Jewel sighed. If he could use the art of Chi Observation to find the hiding place of the dragon, he could avoid the disaster. However, the disaster was already looming over him. Unless the hiding place of the dragon was right in front of him, it would be useless. Jiang Jewel had to come up with another plan. The boatman kindly saved him. He didn't want to burden others with his own tribulations. He planned to thank them and then leave. Jiang Jewel had just walked out of the door when he collided with someone. Jiang Jewel scanned the opposite party dressed in luxurious clothes, and with an imposing demeanor. It was clear that this was a person of great wealth and status. When Jiang Jewel saw the person's appearance clearly, his gaze shifted downward. He was taken aback and couldn't help but say, "Why does this guy look so effeminate, but flat-chested? I thought I ran into a woman disguised as a man. Misunderstanding, misunderstanding." Jiang Jewel came back to his senses, bowed with a smile, and said, "Thank you, young master, for saving me. I still have matters to attend to, so I bid farewell here." Facing imminent danger, Jiang Jewel couldn't care much about etiquette anymore, and he finished speaking. He didn't wait for the other party to speak. Jiang Jewel turned and walked away. The esteemed young master watched Jiang Jewel's departing figure with some suspicion. The man beside him, Daoist Shan Yang, exclaimed angrily, "Young master, this person is very rude. You kindly rescued him, yet he acts so impolitely." The esteemed young master, lost in thought, suddenly spoke up. "Go after and see what's happening." Jiang Jewel left the cabin, looked up at the sky, and saw dark clouds obscuring the sun, with lightning snakes wandering. The three calamities are not just a sudden death like lightning, it corresponds to the three trials: simplicity, illness, and the edge, representing hunger, illness, and warfare. The three calamities may not take lives instantly, but they are like maggots on bones, making people unable to live and unable to die. The precious young master behind the Jiang Jewel. He looked up at the sky in shock. At the next moment, Jiang Jewel leaped up and with a splash, disappeared over the ship's side. The goatee-toting Taoist suddenly pointed at the surface of the Jade Splendor River and exclaimed in surprise, "Young master, look!" The esteemed young master followed his gaze and saw Jiang Jewel standing on the water, walking away briskly as if on land. The esteemed young master exclaimed with emotion, "Truly a person of divine and extraordinary abilities." While he was still pondering, suddenly a ray of sunlight shone on his body. The previously overcast sky, at this moment, surprisingly cleared up as the clouds dispersed, and the sky cleared once again. After Jiang Jewel left the painting boat, he immediately activated his celestial eye and used his chi observation divine technique. His eyes were shining with divine light. He looked at the fish swimming in the river and the grass and trees on the bank. They all give off a faint clear aura, which is fate and destiny. If he can find the hidden long feng shui treasure, the Jiang Jewel, he can cover the mystery and avoid the three small calamities of fate. But when he takes in a view of the surroundings, he had a bitter look on his face. In this world, how could there be such a coincidence? The hiding place of Long is not so easy to find. It's just a pity that this place is too far from Sun Moon Lake. I'm afraid that old friend won't be able to help me either. Shortly after, Jiang Jewel chuckled and said to himself, "Although I can't find the location of the hidden dragon, at least I can find a place with better feng shui to serve as my burial place." Just as Jiang Jewel looked behind him, he couldn't help but exclaim softly in surprise. Within his pupils, a burst of brilliance was emitting. Such a strong dynasty, fate, and destiny. On the painted pleasure boat, the Taoist with a goatee respectfully seeks advice from the esteemed young master. Young master, who recruits talented individuals widely,